This video was translated by the school Elsoon for Languages, originally published in Arabic by MO channel on YouTube. We've got 18 of the most beautiful deserted places in the world. An abandoned ship in Sydney. If you visit Homebush Bay in Sydney, you'll find a floating jungle. The jungle is on a ship. Lots of ships were left in there when they were no longer used. This ship, which is more than 100 years old, remained and has become one of the most beautiful deserted places in the world. The small town of Kolmanskop. It's situated in the Namibian desert, and it was so prosperous at the beginning of the 20th century when it was flooded with German settlers looking for diamond. But the area soon ran out of its diamond reserves, and therefore the town was completely deserted in the 1950s. The deserted mill. It's in the town of Sorrento, Italy. It was built in the 19th century. Actually, the whole area was called the Mills Valley. It was so humid that in the year 1866, the mill in question was abandoned to the plants, which covered it completely and turned it into this fascinating spot, where tourists come to wander about and take pictures. Del Salto Hotel. This old hotel, seemingly from a horror film, is Del Salto Hotel, or as it's called, the Ghost Hotel. It's on a mountain near Tequendama Falls in Bogota River in Colombia. It opened its doors in 1924. The special thing about it were the views from the hotel rooms. You could enjoy the scenery right from the window. Unfortunately, the hotel was closed in 1990, as it hasn't been renovated for so long, and also because of the river water pollution. Now, it has a reputation of being haunted. The Communist Party headquarters in Bulgaria. The building looks like a giant flying saucer from a sci-fi film. It was built on top of a mountain by the communist regime for the government party meetings. It was operated between 1981 and 1991. This building is regarded as a magnificent original architectural masterpiece. More than 60 Bulgarian artists collaborated to come up with the paintings on its wall. Not only that, thousands of people volunteered to actually build the site. It was abandoned and deserted after the Soviet Union had collapsed. An abandoned train station. It is in Abkhazia, formerly part of the Soviet Union. The decorated corridors, the stairs and the waiting areas had been skillfully and carefully built, and thus the train station was once one of the most beautiful. But due to the socio-economic dramatic change in the region at the beginning of the 90s, people no longer needed to travel around the area, and the station had to close. Kacaw Island, which is one of the 400 forming the Chinese archipelago called Qiang. It was once a lively fishing village, but with the development of some derivative industries in the area, such as shipbuilding and tourism, fishing was no longer economically interesting. And therefore, people left the fishing islands altogether, with Kacaw Island being perhaps the most beautiful due to its cottages that got covered completely with plants. They look now like green tiny toy houses in the middle of the beautiful scenery. Blida Algeria. It's a military hospital in Germany. It was built in 1898 for TB patients. The Nazi leader Adolf Hitler was once treated here for a leg injury in one of the battles. The USSR took over the hospital later, and it remained run by the Russian army up to the 90s. Actually, 1994 was the year in which the last patients were treated in there. After that, it became a tourist attraction as well as a shooting spot for films. مقبرة شاتيون للسيارات، وهي أقدم مقبرة للسيارات في العالم. Châtillon Car Graveyard, which is simply the oldest car graveyard in the world. It's within Châtillon Woods in the south of Belgium, and it has around 500 cars covered with soil, as they have been there for more than 75 years. They were left there by the American soldiers who were stationed in Western Europe in World War II, because shipping costs were so high back then. So, what they did was that they parked them neatly in this hiding place, hoping they could someday come and get them back, a thing which didn't happen. Sintra Well. It's 27 meters deep. It's characterized with its mysterious architecture that kind of implies the existence of two options, either going down to darkness or going up to enlightenment. The well has never been used for extracting water, but was rather used for the ritual initiation ceremonies of some religious fraternity. Crystal Mill. It was built in 1892 on Crystal River in Colorado, USA. Despite its name, Crystal Mill is in fact not a mill. It's a station for generating compressed air used in nearby silver mine. It was deserted in 1917 when the mine was shut down. It's said to be the most photographed building in Colorado. No doubt that its breathtaking scenery makes it worth all the fame it has. The town of Gulliver, which is a theme town built in Japan to simulate Gulliver's trips who ended up in a dwarf's island. It was inaugurated in 1997 but was made after service 10 years later as it failed to attract visitors because it was near some suspicious places such as the Suicide Woods and also another area known to be the settlement of some extreme religious group. The Japanese avoid wandering around there, but even though the theme town was a flop due to that, it remained a town of special charm for its beauty and original idea. Maranda Tower. It was built in Belgium in the 19th century. The first owner's grandchildren had been living in it up to World War II. It was then taken over by the Germans, and in the 1950s, the Belgian authorities turned it into an orphanage. The status quo remained up to 1991, when it ceased to be used as its maintaining costs were so high.
Mansell Seafoods. They were built in 1942, consisting of 7 buildings. The idea was that they would be a shield against the German airstrikes. They were in such strategic spots to make sure London is not bombarded and to prevent German warships to get to the River Thames. They were taken out of service in the 50s. The town of Krakow. It's situated in southern Italy. It was full of activity in the Middle Ages, but due to natural disasters, the town was no longer inhabited. As seen here, the town was built on top of a mountain, which made it prone to big storms. There were also earthquakes. Now, the town desolation made it so appealing to tourists and also filmmakers. There are now festivals that are held in it, but it's nobody's hometown though.
Lonedale Theatre. This was a successful theatre in Chicago where lots of classic films were projected, as well as some of the British silent films. There were also singing contests held in there. The theatre was opened in 1927 and closed a couple of times, the last being in 1961. The building was demolished in 2014. Kacaw Village. It was a village in southern Turkey. The majority of its inhabitants spoke Greek, so they started leaving it because of the war between Greece and Turkey, and it became completely empty after the 2 million population exchange treaty between the two countries. A lot of the houses were damaged in the 1957 earthquake, but now the Greek-style 500-house village is considered an open-air museum and is protected by the Turkish government. Not only that, it was listed by the UNESCO as the World Friendship and Peace Village. It is now a tourist attraction for the historical value of its buildings. Plymouth, the ex-capital city of Maranda Island. In 1995, the city was evacuated because of a volcanic threat, and after 2 years, the volcano did erupt and buried the city under 40 feet of ash. The whole southern part of the island was made a banned area, and even the city ex-inhabitants were prohibited from going back to their houses. That's it, thanks for watching. Here's Abdel Halim from Blida Algeria bidding you farewell.